be. Oh, man.
Not official.
Mark, has DJ, Shelby, or Greg shown up?
No, the only people we have in the room today are with BHC.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a new world.
Do you want me to pass around a sign-in sheet, Terry, or do you just want to do it?
No, I'll just note when y'all talk about who's there in person.
That works.
One person had to back out that was going to come in person, Stephanie. So she's going to be online.
Okay. Well, barely anybody online right now. So
They got 7 minutes.
So they got time.
Hey, Terry.
Yes.
Are you seeing just the Zoom 101 slide?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Do you think everybody has it memorized by now?
I would hope they do. Well, here comes the crowd, but none of the people I need to. Martin, you should be a co-host now. Oh, the boss is coming in. He has, Randy's on it now, so.
He said he was gonna try to break in.
Mark, since we got a couple minutes, I was going to suggest we try sharing my screen for a second. I had an issue in my last meeting.
Yeah.
Do you mind?
I'll stop and you take it away.
Okay.
How are you?
Good, you.
Good.
Are you able to see that okay?
Yes, sir.
I can see it, Martin.
Is it in the presentation mode?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Afternoon, Patty.
Good afternoon. Need to adjust my camera and get to see the top of my head. How are you today, Mark? Oh, you got more people in the room.
We got a handful, so
Yay.
nice to have folks back in person a little bit here.
I know I'm going to have to block out the time before this meeting so I have time to get over there. Guess they used to just having one right after the other.
No, I completely understand. The quick question for you submitted, right? Is that separate travel? Sorry. Okay.
Whenever you're ready to get started,
Yep.
Pat.
Yep, it's 1:30 now, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Patty Hildebrand with the City of Kansas City, Missouri, and your chair for Missouri Priorities. We'll walk around the room. Mark, I'll start with you guys for introductions.
Great. Thanks, Patty. Mark Hansen, Principal Planner, Mid-America Regional Council.
Ashley McKay, BHC. Michelle Ballinger, BHC.
David Nolte, BHC.
Daryl Fields, Mark.
Shelby Tufel, Pleasant Hill.
Greg Rocco, City of Allen.
That is all of us in the room, Patty.
Okay, well then I will start with who happens to be at the top of my list. Mickey?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you introduce yourself and who you're with?
Yes, I'm Mickey Airy. I'm the City Administrator, City of Peculiar.
Thank you. Mr. Sewells?
Hi, I'm Chuck Sauls. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Smithville.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Carl Brooks, Director of Public Works for the City of Harrisonville.
Mr. Hine?
Bob Heim, Director of Public Works, Platte County.
Mr. Trosen?
Mark Trosen, Community Development Director, City of Green Valley.
Mr. Nolker?
Matt Nolker, City Administrator, City of Lawson, representing Ray County.
Welcome. Mr. Riverola?
Good afternoon, everyone. Martin Riverola, I'm Assistant Director of Transportation and Land Use with Mark.
Ashley McKay?
I'm in person. And on the
Oh,
screen.
yay, that's right. Mr. Truba? Patrick, you there? I'm going to assume there's Patrick. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Patrick Truba, Mark staff.
And I'm going to assume Terry's in the room, right?
I am online.
Oh, you are? Well, introduce yourself.
Terry Anderson with Mark staff.
Wonderful. Mr. Goff.
Art Goff, Regional Citizen.
D. Tuttle.
Dick Tuttle, City Engineer, City of Green Valley.
Athena.
Athena Hun, Project Manager with City of Independence.
Good to see you, Athena. Adam, is it Hilgedek?
Yeah, Adam Hilgedick, City of Blue Springs, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Welcome. Mr. Binger.
Second. George Binger, City of Lee Summit, City Engineer.
Alex Lopez.
Alex Lopez, Project Manager with City of Independence.
Mike Crass.
Mike Crass, Director of Public Works, Ray Moore.
Joshua Martinez.
Joshua Martinez, Capital Projects Engineer with the City of Liberty.
Randy Gordon.
Randy Gordon, BHC Engineers, Surveyors.
Mr. Bosanetto.
Yes, good afternoon. Nicholas Bosanetto, City Engineer with KCMO.
Jackie White.
Jackie White, Independent City Engineer.
Noel Benyon.
Noel Benyon, BPAC Representative.
Sherry McIntyre. You there, Sherry? You're on mute. We'll come back. John Zimmerman.
John Zimmerman, Trans Systems.
Dan McKee.
Yes, Dan McGee, Lamprey Nearson.
Beth Dawson.
Good afternoon, Beth Dawson, Mid-America Regional Council.
Maricela Ward.
Maricela Ward, MoDOT.
Chad Thompson.
Thompson with KCMO.
Ray Webb.
Ray Webb with Mark in the Operation Greenlight program.
John Batchelor.
John Batchelor with Trans Systems.
John Findlay.
John Findlay, City Engineer with the City of Liberty.
Crystal Jolly.
Crystal Jolly, MoDOT.
Nathan Latke. You there, Nathan? Let's see, Allison Abel.
Allison Abels, Public Works Director, City of Parkville, Missouri.
Rachel Thomas.
Rachel Thomas, MoDOT Planning.
Stephanie Boyce.
Hi, Stephanie Boyce, City of Raytown, Interim Director of Public Works.
Welcome. Mr. Griffin.
Terry Griffin, Clay County Highway.
Sorry, Terry.
That's okay.
Michael Park.
Michael Park, City of Lee Summit.
Dagmar.
Dagmar Wood with Platte County.
Is this Tim Nebergall?
Tim Nebergall, City of Gladstone.
Katie Horner.
Katie Horner, Walter P. Moore.
Sherry McIntyre.
Sherry McIntyre, City of London.
And I'll try Nathan Latke one more time. Did I miss anyone?
Mike Duffy. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Duffy, City of Riverside, representing Goods Movement Committee.
Thank you. And David?
Yep, David Pavlich, City of Kearney Community Development.
All right, full house today. I'd remind everybody to please enter. Did I miss anybody else?
Patty, we've had one additional join us in person, so I'll let him introduce himself.
DJ Garrett, City of Platte City.
Excellent. I'll remind everybody to please put your name and agency in the chat box to make attendance a little easier. And with that, we'll get started on our agenda. Top of the agenda is our meeting summary from August 9th. It was included from Terry with your email for the committee today. See if there's any needed edits or otherwise a move
I
to
move
adopt.
to approve. This is Allison Abel, Parkville.
Thank you, Allison. Can I get a second?
I'll make the
Second, George Binger.
Thanks, George. So I've got a motion and a second to approve as submitted. I'll just ask if anyone objects. Okay, with no indication, we will adopt the minutes as presented. Thank you. Next up, our favorite MoDOT updates. Is that Maricela?
Yes, that'll be me. Okay,
How
really quick. I have a couple of things today. We have some training, the person of reasonable charge through to LTAP, and that is a 3-day series, and it is October 25th, 27th, and November 1st. And I believe it's virtual. Second thing we have is a call for governor's cost share has been put out, and those applications are due September 30th. And that's a 50% construction on that program. And then TEEP applications are due on September 23rd. That's coming up pretty close. That's pretty much just for studies. And then a quick update on the Pell. We're still doing public outreach, and we are actually reviewing baseline conditions. And that's a quick review on the Pell. So that's all I had. Any questions?
Patty, I think you're on mute.
I am. Sorry. So next up is our MoDOT unfunded needs. I'll kick that over to Martin.
Awesome.
I'm going to stop sharing so you can go ahead.
Okay, let's do it. Give me 1 second here. So we are going to be spending a few minutes. Give me a second. Let me get my screen organized here. Talking about the Missouri unfunded needs process. And I need a check here, Mark, if you just let me know. Can you see my screen okay? And can you see it in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes to both.
Okay, so we're gonna be spending a few minutes talking about the Missouri unfunded needs process, as you know, and we talked about this during the STP committee meeting last month. MoDOT is working to update its statewide unfunded needs list. So over the next few minutes, I'm gonna first of all do a quick reminder of some slides and some information that we shared with you last month. So a reminder of the work that was completed in 2021. We'll review again the recommendations from MoDOT district staff about which projects should be sort of moved up into the different or included in the different unfunded needs lists that we have. We'll review briefly again a listing of projects that could be considered unfunded from our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We have put together a scenario for discussion by this committee we'd like to share with you. And then finally, we are going to be polling you here during this call, during this meeting. So I'm going to be using poll everywhere. So this is your notice to get your phones out. We're going to do a little bit of a polling exercise towards the end. Hopefully that helps us with discussion. And if you don't have your phone available or a computer that you can participate remotely, then we'll take your comment, your feedback some other way through the chat, or maybe by just raising your hand. So anyway, that's the program for today. I will say that if the committee feels like you're in a good position to finalize work on this unfunded needs list for the Kansas City region during this meeting, that's fine. We can go ahead and have you take a vote on this list. But if you feel like you'd like to take another stab at it at a future meeting, we do have one additional month that we could come back and add this to the October agenda. That'll be up to the committee and how you want to move forward on that. So with that, this is a request to update the list that was previously adopted in September of last year. And as you know, the goal of this process is to be able to produce a list, to be able to react quickly with deliverable projects to any identified or secured funding, and ultimately to be able to provide a list of projects which represent where additional funding could be used. So as the goal of this process, and most of you should be experts on this. We've done it before a couple of times now. This committee is being asked to finalize the recommendations. We are, like you did last year, we are going to take this before the MARC Highway Committee meeting as well. Their meeting will be in a couple of weeks, and if there's any feedback from them that needs to be shared with this committee, we will do so. So as a quick reminder, again, we are looking at validating and updating the 2021 lists. We have three tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3, with different sort of target funding amounts. Tier 1 is a tier 1 road and bridge list that has a target cost of nearly $90 million. And these in the tier one projects are the projects that are envisioned to move forward towards construction within the life of the STP, so within the next 5 years or so. The next tier down, tier two, is the road and bridge has a much larger target funding amount or target cost of nearly $360 million. And these are projects that are envisioned to move forward towards construction in the next 10 years or so. And then finally, there is a tier three. This is the tier three road and bridge priority list, also with a target funding amount of $360 million. And these are projects that are anticipated to move forward next towards construction, ideally once tier one and two projects have advanced. Although as we will see and we have previously discussed, it is possible for projects to jump ahead of others depending on what's going on out there. I will also briefly mention that there's also a multimodal unfunded needs list. There has not been a lot of movement on those projects and included in the multimodal unfunded needs list. So we are not discussing those. We are just going to be focusing on the roads and bridge list at this point. As we look at this, we always want to keep in mind that we have policy goals and strategies in our transportation plan. We also want to, of course, look back at what was work that was completed a year ago. So I'll provide a very quick reminder of what that is. I mentioned that MoDOT district staff had shared some priorities with staff, and we're passing those along to you as well. And we do want to look at our project listing in our Metropolitan Transportation Plan in Connected KC, where we do have a listing of constrained rehabilitation projects or illustrative high, medium, low priority projects that in theory should be candidates to be included in these project listings. So those are things that we look at as we believe considering which projects get included in these unfunded needs list. I already mentioned the agenda. We are looking at bringing this to the Highway Committee in a couple of weeks, and this will be ultimately, we're hoping, ready for adoption by the Total Transportation Policy Committee during their meeting next month. So here's a reminder again of the tier one and tier two listing as approved by this committee and by the TTPC last year. And this was also shared with you last month and with an attachment that we shared after that meeting. So as you can see here, there's been a few of these projects that have actually moved into the TIP and the STP and are advancing towards construction. So these are moving off these lists. There's a couple in these tables. There's a couple of projects that have recommendations to either move up to a tier one from the two or move down the listing. Here's a tier three, I believe I have. Here's a tier three, and you can see one of those projects has also moved up off this list altogether because it has moved forward towards construction. A couple of notes here is we do have one project here that was included in the listing last year. That's a Missouri Route 9 from 3rd Street to Admiral. There is a large drop in costs per the information that was provided to us by MoDOT. So we'd like to check with you, particularly with Kansas City, Missouri staff, if that is the correct number to have in there. And I have a spot to kind of talk that through. There's also another project that is that now has a recommendation by MoDOT to move up into the tier two. That's safety improvements across Broussard-Watkins Drive. And also this one has a significant change in cost from what is included in the MTP. Last but not least, we had shared this also last week. We have here a couple of pages of projects that are included in our MTP that are in theory unfunded, right? They're not in the TIP or the STP at this point. So this is the universe of projects that we look at that we believe should be considered with the other ones in order to be included in this list. So we shared this with you in case you have any other ones that you want to bring up during our conversations here. So here's the second page there. So I am going to go ahead now and move into the scenarios that we kind of built. And once I walk through this, I mentioned that we're going to have a poll EV exercise. But before doing so, I'll give you a chance to discuss and share any reaction that you may have before we do the exercise. But first, we're looking at the tier one, and we do have one project here that appears to be a natural to move to move up and be included in this list. That's the I-70 435 to 470 segment. This is a project that has a high score in our MTP. It was prioritized as a high priority project by our committees, and it is a MoDOT District 1 priority. So it does come with a recommendation to be included as a tier 1. A couple of questions that we have for this that we'll ask here in a minute. Is this the right project on this list? And then also we do want to note that this project cost does exceed the MoDOT target for tier 1. So is there a reason, is there a need to phase this project out for the purposes of this list? Or is MoDOT district staff comfortable with just including this project as it is, understanding that's a little bit of, I guess, overshooting the target, if you will. So that's one. I'm going to move on to our tier 2. So we have 4 projects that are included in this scenario under tier 2. 3 of those are projects that were in the tier 2 listing last year when this committee approved this unfunded needs list, and those are the I-29 I-35 corridor improvements, the Route D, and the I-49 pavement reconstruction projects. These are high scoring projects, and they carry a MoDOT district staff recommendation. We do have one that's proposed, that's suggested or is recommended by MoDOT to move up into this tier, and that's a safety improvements across Broussard Watkins. This is again, it's a high scoring project, high priority by our committees, and there's a lot of support. There has been a lot of support for this project, so that's a recommendation from MoDOT district staff. We think it makes sense, but that's ultimately a question that we'll ask of you here in a second. Are these the right projects on this list? And I'll go ahead and have 2 more slides, and then I'll pause for discussion. So this is tier 3. This is, again, the listing of projects that are anticipated to advance towards construction, maybe outside of that 10-year horizon, although they could move up if funding materializes. So the listing, this first page, that was first screen or slide that you see here, are all projects that are currently included in our tier 3 listing from the work that was done last year. I do want to once again note the Missouri Route 9 project in Kansas City, Missouri does have a significant drop in cost from what is listed in our MTP. And again, we'll ask the question, are these the right projects on this list? And is the cost for the Missouri Route 9 the correct cost for this project? More projects on the tier 3 listing. We have these. What you see here on the screen is a listing of projects. These are sort of the next projects that were in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan project listing. The next candidates, in our opinion, and these are sorted by score. From high to low to lower scores. These are all and with a committee prioritization work, and including also the MoDOT district staff priority. So many of these projects are in our MTP. A couple of them are not. That if they move forward and eventually get included in our TIP and STP, we'd have to amend the MTP to include them in there. So this is what we have for the tier 3 listing. I will note before I pause for conversations now is that if we were to include all these projects here on this listing, we're going to overshoot the target by 120 million or so. So if we want to follow the instructions by MoDOT, we're going to have to cut this back a little bit, and that's why we have you to help us with those conversations. So as I mentioned, we are going to be doing our poll exercise, but before doing so, I did want to pause and allow members of the committee an opportunity to react to information you've seen. If there's anything to add or any questions that you'd like to ask.
Does anyone have questions for Martin this morning or this afternoon?
I do. This is Sherry McIntyre.
Go ahead, Sherry.
If you go back to the tier 2, if you could go back to that, Martin.
That one?
Yes. So when we look at the I-29 and I-35 corridor, as well as the safety, well, I'll just start with I-29 and I-35 corridor improvements, and this is a good question for MoDOT. How much of that also includes pavement reconstruction? So that when I'm comparing the needs to make sure we have good pavement, but yet you're also doing corridor improvements. I just need to understand, are we just doing interchanges on that corridor improvements? Or are we doing pavement and interchange improvements? Because, you know, if I go back to our value that we need to maintain our existing pavement, if that project includes replacing a lot of the pavement as well as doing interchange improvements, it kind of puts it in a different light as opposed to what might be assumed of just interchange costs.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to any Maricela or Crystal. I believe you're on the call. I do not see Joanne on the call.
Yeah, Joanne's is gone right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure, Sherry, what it's all included in there, or what type of improvements they are. So we'll have to get back with you on that.
Okay. I mean, you know, I'm kind of, and I support pavement reconstruction, but sometimes when we loop these projects in, it includes that plus other needed interchange improvements for geometric safety reasons as well. But in doing so, you're getting on new pavement. So I'll just want to make sure I'm comparing apples to apples when I'm looking at saying the projects are just pavement reconstructions.
Okay, we would have to get back to you because I'm not sure what the details are on there.
And that might just be something to keep in mind when you have some of those things, what that includes.
Thank you, sir. That was a good question. Any other questions? Any other observations?
Yeah, this is Nicholas Bossinetto, KCMO City Engineer. I would just like to point out that we did receive a $5 million race grant for the safety improvements on Bruce Hart Watkins. So that project, we've gotten $5 million. We'll have a $2.5 million match with it, and we'll take care of the EIS and the preliminary studies in order to figure out what exactly to do with that project. So I think it's a good idea to move it to tier 2. That way, by the time this project's ready to move forward, the funding might be available.
I did fail to mention one note that I wanted to make sure I point out. We did share this work with you last month. As I mentioned, I did receive one email from Platte City with a note about the Missouri the 92 Highway Improvements Phase 2. Is a note of support for that particular project, given a lot of more recent development or industrial work that's taking place in that area. Maybe a supporting statement towards moving that project up the list. So that was shared with me in an email. I just wanted to pass that along to the committee as well. So unless there's any other comments or thoughts, I'll go ahead and move on to the exercise portion of this work. And let me just go ahead and do that. I would like to ask you, let's hope this works, as they always say. You never know with technology. I'd like to ask you to please go to, take your phones out and type in the URL bar, pollev.com/marckc, MARCKC. And the first question that we will ask of the group will be regarding the tier 1 is the I-70, the I-435 to I-70 segment, the project that we should include in the tier 1 listing. Okay, I like seeing one response. It means that it's working for somebody. There are 48 people on the call, so hopefully we'll have a few responses. And I'm not seeing a count of how many people are participating. This may just be in a unanimous opinion, so I'm not seeing the bar move very much. I'm going to assume
just
that's
one person or a bunch. Yeah,
it's one person or everybody agrees. So I'm going to assume everybody agrees. Oh, there's one. There's one. Maybe it was one that was just testing it. I'll give it another 15 seconds, 10 seconds. I'm going to move on. This appears to be fairly clear. So let me see here. The next question that I have on the list to ask of the group is regarding the projects that I had listed in the tier 2, which were the Bruce Hart Watkins, the I-29-35 corridor improvements, Route D and I-49 pavement reconstruction for those last 2. Are those all right for the tier 2 listing? So I'm going to call that, yeah, that's a pretty good consensus, I think, on that one. I'm going to go ahead and advance the slide to the next question that we have. Tier one, we were pretty close to 100% on the tier one listing. And if somebody for some reason disagrees and not get a chance to, is there any other projects that should be considered for tier one? I'm not going to stay on this slide very long because I think the answer is going to be none, but I'll move on to the next one. Similar question for tier. There we go. So that was one comment for tier one, to move I-29, I-35 corridor improvements to the tier one listing. So on that note, I'm going to ask the same question for tier two. We had those 4 projects under tier two. So I'd like to ask, are there any other projects that should be moved up to the tier two listing? Again, the thought in tier two is that these are projects that hopefully get implemented over the next 10 years. And I-29, I-35 are currently in tier two in the scenario that we proposed. Couple comments for 92. That's Route 92. I would like to ask on the 291, what segment is that people are, if you took the time to add that comment, that project to on your phone, if you could please unmute yourself and share what segment you're envisioning we should be looking at.
You had the section that went from Ash back towards 291. I mean, back towards I-35, whichever, where the improvement ends. Or from 435, basically from 435 to back to the east.
So we have a few comments around 291, a few comments around the 470, 50, I-470, 50 highway interchange, a few around Missouri Route 92. And I think all of these show up in the tier 3 listing that I'll be asking you here in a second. Well, these are good. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the tier 3 listing as I had shared with you here a couple of minutes ago. And this one's going to be a little bit different. I had shared with you 2 slides with proposed listing of projects in the tier 3. In this case, I'm going to ask you to help out with a ranking of the projects. And the way we have the sort of the default setting that we have them shown here on the screen right now are once again by MTP, by our Metropolitan Transportation Plan score. And then they're ranked in that way at this point. So you should be able to pull up your phone. You'll see all the projects. You should be able to click on an arrow to move a project up or down. And once you got the projects the way you'd like to have these projects shown and listed, you click on submit at the very bottom, you scroll all the way down, click on submit, and the ranking of projects should show up. And then the system is going to show us sort of a combined score for everyone. So this one is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to give you a minute or so. We'll see if we need any longer. Maybe another 30 seconds. Is anybody still working on this? It's still moving. I'll stop. I'll wait. I'll be patient. So it does appear that the Missouri 92, Route 92, phase 2 is a sleeper and has moved all the way up from the bottom of the list all the way to the top of the list. So that's very interesting to see, and that's great feedback from the committee. We do have another project is an interchange project. Look forward to hearing the thoughts from MoDOT staff also on the call about this or after this meeting. That was a high scoring project. But in Mark's work, it did not carry MoDOT district prioritization or priority. Second on the list. The third on the list there is the first priority as shared with us by MoDOT district staff. These I-70 470 interchange project. The fourth project on the list there is Route AA Wacomas Drive complete street reconstruction. That was, I believe, one of the highest scoring projects that we have on the Missouri state system, and with a score of 149, but did not carry MoDOT priority for this work. Then we have the 291. Would this be the project that Sherry, maybe that the comments were in reference to in the previous slide, the 291 435 to Ash?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I put that in too. So yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so that's it's a fairly high MTP score. Had a fourth priority by MoDOT district staff, and all of you are able to see. I probably will not go all the way down the list, but I will allow the committee opportunity to comment or to share your reaction to this list as these projects are currently ranked. Sure. One other observation that I have is with the target funding of 360 million. I had shared previously that we have about 470 million in the universe of projects that I had shared with you. So if we were to go with this the ranking or inclusion of projects as shown here on the screen, would be able to probably include most of those projects in, with the exception of the two on at the bottom of the page. Pretty large ticket items. So Ron, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. I believe what we wanted to do now is we wanted to maybe take this feedback from the committee and rank the projects or put them in this order in that spreadsheet that we have, and see if there's any additional discussion the committee would like to have. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of consensus around this list now. You're welcome to take action if you feel that there's a lot of consensus around this, or this is something that we can share with the highway committee and come back and finish this work next month. But if you have that project listing, we could pull that up. We have a spreadsheet, and we can move things around if needed.
Martin, my apologies. I don't have that spreadsheet ready. So okay. We need to save the poll everywhere results and drop them in. I was planning to join the call on time, but got hung up on another call.
Sorry about that, Ron.
Are there any questions, comments, additional feedback from Martin from the committee? Do we have a preference of going ahead and having a motion to approve this, or do you think we need to hold it another week for additional input? Doesn't sound like we have a lot of additional input right now.
Patty, this is Marcella. Let's hold it a week so we could kind of run through this with Joanne and our management. So I would suggest we hold it.
And it would be more than a week. It would we'd probably bring it back to the STP Priorities Committee meeting next month. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, not a week, a month.
Yeah.
A month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we're back before the committee. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Sorry about that.
Let's do that. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and working through this exercise with us, and we'll see you next month.
Great. Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing. So turn it back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is our CRISA maintenance project. Daryl?
Hello, everybody. I'm not gonna take a whole lot of time talking, so I can turn it over to our crack consultant team to get you guys up and understand what the portals need. But as you know, Mark is maintaining the funds for regional preventive maintenance project, which we'll be doing overlay project. One thing I do ask, I think I have everybody's partner agreements. There might be a couple of jurisdictions and I'm still waiting on partner agreements, so please get those into me as soon as possible. But we have developed a portal that your project will be submitted through. The BHC will walk you through how the process works, what it's going to look like, and we can kind of ask questions as we go through it. But I'm going to turn it over to them so they can walk you through it. And Dave Nolte, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you. We're certainly excited to kick this project off, and certainly glad to have such a large crowd today. So appreciate that. Wanted to just mention kind of the schedule as before we talk about the portal. Today is just more of an educational type, showing us how it's going to work, how it's going to be calculating as far as the project limits. We will actually go live next Tuesday. Be rolled out next Tuesday, September 20th. There will be a work session at our office, BHC's office. And to make things a little better, we will have snacks and goodies there. So if you all don't want to try entering it yourself, you can come into our office and we can help you input those as you would like. By October 4th, we're going to close down the access. So it's basically 2 weeks time to get everybody's input, roads selected. And then following that, we will do a fielding operation to confirm actual what's in the field of what's been selected. And then by the end of the month, we hope to have some preliminary contract reviews such that we can discuss with Mark and keep it rolling. With that, I'll turn it over to our GIS experts, Michelle and Ashley.
Ashley, you ready to share your screen? I am. General things everybody needs to be aware of. If you have not provided your login accounts or whatever else you need, we have a handful of them. I don't feel like we have everybody's. We won't be able to link you and have you go live next week. So it's going to be really important that we know exactly who needs access, their email address, first name, what entity they belong to, so that it can all get connected together. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And then Ashley can walk through. This is going to be relatively simple, but again, if you're not comfortable doing it, or you just want to come, take a nice little afternoon to an office that's not your own, you are welcome to come see us next Thursday, the 22nd, and we will have laptops set up and GIS people sitting there ready to help you guys step through this.
So once this link goes live, it'll be sent out to you. The link will prompt you to log in. So if you have an existing ARC Online account and that username has been provided to us, those credentials will work. If you do not, and we need to create one for you, as Michelle said, we need that information, including your email address. So once you have logged in, you have a selector over here on the side to choose the entity that you're selecting for. This actions button will zoom you to your location. And we have some color coding just to help you decide. So anything in yellow, there's a potential conflict with the requirements. Anything green, you have the potential to maximize your funds by partnering with a neighboring city. And anything in yellow is just kind of neutral territory. There's no immediate red flags to that choice. So you'll zoom into wherever you think you'd like. And then we have an edit tab here on the side. So you'll pick road selection. And then you're just going to draw a simple polygon around the area you would like to improve. Double click to finish. The only thing that you need to fill out is this owner, whoever owns the maintenance jurisdiction of the road, you'll type in your information there. If you happen to know the current material, you have the option to fill that out, but that will go to field, so that's not important. And create. If you'd like to see the estimated cost of that repair, you can select it again. And then you've got an estimated cost listed right here. Once all of your selections are complete, you'll go back and select your city again here, hit submit. That lets us know that you are done. That's it. Any questions?
That looks really straightforward and simple. Do we have any questions from anyone?
We try to keep it simple and straightforward.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick question. I saw earlier on, there's discussion of surface treatment or mill and overlay. Is it all mill and overlay at this point?
At this point, it's all mill and overlay.
That's fine. Yeah, that changes them. Yeah.
Again, it kind of goes back to that streamline. And
no, that's fine. I just needed to know because we were looking at a surface treatment. So that's good to know.
This is Joshua with the City of Liberty. So the training with BHC next week, is that going to be more in depth than what you guys just walked us through right here?
No, this is it. This is all it takes to make your selections. Coming into the office will make your actual selections.
And won't require you to get a username and a login if you don't want to go through those hoops. We can just do it live, have the data ready, and then it'll get fielded.
Oh, okay. Thank you, guys.
So my only question was how can I confirm if we have username and logins, and who do we reach out to?
Confirm as in within your existing entity you already have?
No, like if we needed to set one up.
Dave, how many have you gotten?
Right now.
And the people have been sending me their usernames, and I've been forwarding them to Dave, so you can use it. Send them to me, and I'll make sure.
Okay.
Come on, guys. I know you got some more questions.
Any more questions, anybody?
We really did try to keep this very simple just to help you guys.
So this is George Banger. So how do we get to this website?
The link will be provided after we go live next Tuesday.
Okay.
And if you have already provided a username and an email, you will be able to immediately be able to log in. If you have not, please provide that before this goes live next Tuesday. So you'll be prepared to be able to go into this.
Okay. And then we'll have a copy of this presentation. Will this be sent out before the meeting minutes are sent out or made available? Because I think this meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, we can try and get it posted up for you, George.
Okay.
I did have one more question. So it pops out an estimate. I know per the agreement that we signed with Mark, each municipality has a set amount of dollars that's going towards their individual improvements. Is the estimator flagging that if it's above or below that amount? How does that work?
Currently, it is not set to flag that.
Okay.
It'll go to an office review with Dave's team, and at that point, feedback loops will be provided to allow you guys know, hey, you're X amount over your limit or X amount under your limit also.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason we'd like to do this in the beginning of that 2-week period so that we have time and we're not scrambling at the very end to make sure everybody's using their funds.
How do you envision this working with our normal annual street asphalt program? Is this just going to be completely separate? Do people show up separately from that?
We're looking basically as 4 separate contracts, kind of dividing it in the counties actually, so that, you know, we're not having all at once type situation. So we're trying to work with each jurisdiction, but we're going to basically have one contract per county to take care of all of those selected roadways in that county.
So we just have to be careful that we don't end up with 2 asphalt contractors in town, because we're going to do we have our own program as well. I'm sure everybody does. Yeah. I'm sure everyone does.
Yeah. So yes.
This is Stephanie with the City of Raytown. Quick question. What date is that meeting at BHC scheduled for?
Sure. It's Thursday, September 22nd.
Do we have a time yet?
It's anytime during that day.
Okay.
So it's a one-day opportunity. So
Like a drop-in?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I also had a question about the kind of related to the earlier question about is there anything that's tracking the dollar amounts by jurisdiction? Is there any way for the folks responding to this to identify priorities and in hoping that we're going to spend all of the CRISA dollars with this, and that may mean that folks will need to ask for more road segments than we're able to fund. So how will we handle that, knowing which ones are like first priority or second set of priority in an individual jurisdiction?
We can add a field. And then we could just have a priority field and they enter that. So then they have to put in the owner of that area and a 1, 2, 3 to whatever number, if that's what we want to make an adjustment.
Does that work for everybody?
Daryl, you good with that? All right.
Yeah.
Good question. We'll just add a priority.
Great, thank you.
This is Sherry, and I guess our intent is we're going to submit the roads we want done, and we'll pay whatever it takes to finish it off. Is that going to be a problem? And they're all next to each other, so it's not like it's hopscotching around.
Sure, that's one question. I don't think we have a really good answer with. I think we have to touch back with MoDOT and see if that'll work with them.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I don't think that'll be a problem, but I'm not 100% sure. And I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I'd rather touch base with MoDOT to make sure.
Sure. I'm just commenting. I mean, we've already figured out which roads we want to submit. We probably are already estimating that it's going to be more than what we have available, and we know that we will be obligated to pay the difference, but we just soon get it all done in one big contract. Yeah,
I understand. I just simply because we have some restrictions based on, since the federal dollars, we just want to make sure that we're on the same page. So let me double check with MoDOT, and I can get back. I'll get back with everybody.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and then put some priorities on what we submit, but like I said, our intent is, because it's all in the same area, we'll just as soon have it all the same mix and all the same contract.
Understood.
Okay, thanks.
I did. I was going to ask, is there any way to account for curb and gutter repairs that might be needed before the mill and overlay is done or anything like that? Or is this just, it's just, okay.
Just mill and overlay. If there's curb repairs needed, that would have to be done prior to.
Okay.
Well, great discussion. It's wonderful to see this kind of coming to life after all of our conversations and planning and programming. So do we have any other questions? Does every jurisdiction have a feel?
Would there be any way to, I don't know if this would be the right mechanism or not, or the consolidated services that Mark has, but would there be any way that we could maybe get one large concrete curb and sidewalk contractor and maybe have all the cities be able to piggyback so that we can get some of that work done ahead of time under one main contract and have good unit prices?
Boy, Allison, that's a hard
I know, I'm asking for a lot.
I don't know. I don't have, Ron, do you have an answer for that one? I'm gonna throw you under the bus.
My first concern would be we're trying to target the 2023 construction season with most of this preventive maintenance work, so I'm just not sure there's time.
Well, we wouldn't be able to quantify that and all of that stuff. So I know it was like it's a big ask, and I wanted to find out if there was some way that we could use the Mark Consolidated Services that they've got to maybe get some good pricing.
I think we would be very open to that. Only concern would be tying it to this project. But I think we would be open to having discussion about how that might work.
Or maybe you could do it county
Yeah.
by county, and we could piggyback on each other's. I'm just trying to think how we could get a larger project and get better pricing.
Allison, this is Dagmar, and I was going to suggest that maybe you get with Bob Hyman, see if there's a contract that you can piggyback on. I think we might have that availability.
Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, thank you.
That's such a great thought.
I think the only last thing I say, if I hadn't gotten your partner agreements, then please get them into me as soon as you can.
Got one more question. This is John Finley at the City of Liberty. Do we have an anticipated or estimated bid date for the project?
We're really trying to shoot for either late this year or early next year, basically because we want to get construction started in the springtime of 2023.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, I'm excited to see this thing move forward. So everybody get your information in, and we'll look forward to seeing more of it. Any other questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to our agenda. So next up on our agenda, I can pull it up here, is the much anticipated 2025-26 call for projects. So I'll turn that over to Mark.
Thanks, Patty. So most of you should be aware now that the next kind of step in the process took place late yesterday evening when we distributed STP scoring to those applicants, and in cases where we knew other project contacts, we made sure to include those as well. And so if you had multiple people submitting multiple applications, you may want to do some coordination in your office, make sure you're accounting for everything. But we did send those scores out, just STP. I think TAP scoring is coming soon if it hasn't already gone out. Maybe Patrick can speak to that here a little bit later. CMAQ is probably the one scoring area where we're lagging, maybe a little bit further behind than where I would like to be at this point. But CMAQ scoring is slightly different. There's not as many places for interpretation about the score. It's basically emissions calculations and take it from there for as far as the scoring. So hopefully we'll be done with that soon, but we're working through some eligibility concerns as well as some missing information that we need to kind of complete our calculations as far as that goes. So we'll run through the schedule here a little bit. You'll see the next kind of step in the process will be working with you all and other programming committees to develop sets of funding recommendations. So preliminary scores are out. We did provide you, as we have been historically done, provided you an opportunity to kind of question the scores, ask questions, maybe ask for reconsideration of things. Mark staff is always open to reconsidering scores if you have questions about them. However, there is just one limitation to that. If it's not in your original application, we will not necessarily consider new information under this process. So if we missed it or we misinterpreted something in your application, we are happy to go back and take a look, but don't bring new information to the table as well. And so we gave you probably about a week to do that, and we'll work through those as they come in. So if you're ready to go with questions about your scores, please do start submitting those and we'll start working through them. Would like to take a minute at this point. There are a lot of Mark staff on this call, most of who participated in the scoring process. We can't get through this without their efforts. So thanks to all of them. It's also why we can move through the process pretty quick, because it is rather decentralized. But having your comments early means we can farm them out to the appropriate people and get responses going. So please do take advantage of that window of time in order to get your questions answered. We like to make sure we have everybody's questions answered. We may not always be happy with the end result, but hopefully you'll at least have the opportunity to have your voice heard, and we can provide you with an explanation about how we arrived at a particular score for your project. So you can see that preliminary score sent out last night. Window closes on the 19th of September for you to ask questions about your score, which kind of leads me to the next step in the process. We had tentatively talked at the last meeting about scheduling a special meeting on September 27th. Given where we are in the scoring process, I think we can go ahead and utilize that special meeting that we had kind of put on the calendar for you. I think this meeting can be an all virtual meeting. We did application presentations last round. We did everything last round virtually, to be honest, but the application presentations went fairly well and went smoothly using the all virtual process. And so I think we can go back to using that process to do our application presentations. So we will start getting that information together. So now that you have some preliminary scoring information, it does give you some more information to work off in terms of prioritizing your applications. So we will be asking you to do a couple different things here before September 27th. One, start working on your presentations. I'll remind you that you get 5 minutes per jurisdiction. It's not 5 minutes per applicant, but 5 minutes per jurisdiction. So the more applications you have and the more people you had doing applications, the more work you have to do to coordinate your presentation. But it's 5 minutes per jurisdiction to talk about your applications. Prioritize them however you want. Spend however much time on each of them that you would like within that 5 minutes. I would just ask that you send your presentations to me and we'll get them kind of compiled into an order, and we'll just step through them as we go through the process. So we'll be sending information out to you about this as well, but I wanted to give you an earlier heads up to get started working on those. We would also like to ask for you to identify those of you that submitted multiple applications. It would be helpful information to know, and the committee generally asks for this, kind of prioritize your applications, 1 through however many that you have, and we can get started adding those to our scoring information sheets that'll start to come out once the scoring has been finalized. But we will be doing application presentations. We were able to get through everyone's applications, our presentations last round. The number of applications is very similar. The number of jurisdictions is very similar this time, so I don't anticipate that we'll have any issues getting through everybody's presentations on the 27th, which should then set us up for kind of some good discussion on October 11th, not only about MoDOT's unfunded needs, as we heard earlier, in finishing that process, but getting started on the process of actually determining funding recommendations for STP, and hopefully by that point, CMAQ traffic flow projects that'll come through this committee as well. So you can see the meeting schedule up there. Pretty much every 2 weeks, we'll have meetings to get through this programming process. Hopefully we will not need all of these meetings to get through that process, but if we do, they are on the calendar, and so you can plan ahead for those, but that's kind of where we are. Patty, that's really all I had today as far as the call for projects. Just next step in the process has begun, so great.
When's the list of all the projects and the scores going to be released?
We will send that out when everybody's had an opportunity to question their scores and the scores are a little more final. We will send that out.
So Nick has a question, just STP projects on the 27th, or will we also be looking for like the CMAQ portion of our responsibilities?
You know what, that's a good question. I think because CMAQ is coming later, we'll probably hold off on doing CMAQ presentations. There's not that many of them, so I think we can handle some additional presentations at that October 11th meeting. So I would plan on that for CMAQ traffic flow.
Okay. And Patrick clarified that the TAP scoring was sent out yesterday, so those are out as well.
Great, thank you.
Did I miss anybody else's comments here? Okay. Fantastic. Well, we're going to have, as always, for these rounds, we're going to have a busy September, October, November. But I'll remind everybody that we try to work collaboratively and cooperatively to fairly as much as can be done. So we'll kind of jump into that then at the next meeting and hear all about the project. So, Mark, you're up for reasonable progress.
Yes. So not a lot of activity going on. I think we let you know at the last meeting that we did take advantage of kind of a balance there of unobligated projects, folks moving back a year. We did take advantage of that opportunity to request a transfer to FTA of the Planning Sustainable Places project funds. Those have been transferred to FTA, so that has been kind of technically obligated. So hopefully we'll be able to get started on our Planning Sustainable Places projects in Missouri a little bit sooner than we typically are, as those funds will be, we'll have access to those funds a little bit sooner. And so that actually did take place. And I'll show you on the next screen, we had one project slide back from 2022 to 2023. That was in Belton at Route 58 in Powell. So that one slid back due to some issues, I'm assuming, with right-of-way and the Cass County court system, slowing things down a little bit, as I'm sure you are all familiar with at this point with the COVID slowdowns in the court system. So we still have a handful of projects kind of on the list there. Some of these I'm just not completely sure about. I think Jackson County is looking to move back on the Greenwood Connector project, and I'm fairly certain the OGL Traffic Management System Operations Project has been obligated at some point this year. So the only two real questions remaining there will be Wacomas in Kansas City, Missouri, and then Peculiar's Route C intersection improvements. So I don't know if anybody those jurisdictions.
So yeah, this is Patty. The Wacomas project is submitted to MoDOT for PS&E, and we're waiting on one signature for the agreement, and then we should be good to go. So didn't quite make the obligation year, but we'll be really close.
Great, thanks, Patty. Anybody from Peculiar?
Yes, we're very close. We've submitted everything to MoDOT. Should go out for bidding 1st of October for the project.
Great, thank you. That's great news to hear. On the CMAQ side, we have seen kind of confirmation that Liberty's Withers and Holt traffic signal project has been obligated. So that's at the door. Ray, any update on Operation Greenlight's traffic signal advancements project? Thought I saw Ray on the call. Maybe Ron, you can speak to that one as well.
I'm not sure that there's any concern about it. I think it did get sort of hung up in the transition time as FHWA's financial systems kind of get locked up at the end of the fiscal year. But I think we're in position to get those funds obligated if they haven't already.
Great, thanks, Ron. You can also see on the list there on the bottom of the screen, the two CMAQ traffic flow projects we'll have coming in 2023 and 2024. Operation Greenlight has an ATMS software project, which is kind of split between CMAQ traffic flow funds and some STP dollars that make that project whole, both in 2023. And then Lee's Summit has a project there at the intersection of Ward Road and Purcell's Road, scheduled for 2024. On the next screen here, you can see what we have programmed right now for 2023. So we have a rather large balance of funds for 2023, as a lot of projects have deferred off until 2023. So you notice Belton has been added to the list, and we'll get Jackson County's project on here into 2023 as well. So that number will go up slightly to about 29.3 million when you factor that particular project in. So you can see a couple busy years coming in 2023 and 24, and we'll be adding 25 and 26 to the equation here fairly soon. So that is your update on reasonable progress.
Outstanding. Well, we got a lot of great projects programmed, and we're about to pick a lot more. So thankful for the additional money coming into the region. Any other business for the committee before we sign off?
I have a couple of exciting programs coming up. The Women in Transportation, WTS, is going to be hosting a panel discussion. It is a joint panel discussion with WTS and COMTO the Minority Transportation Officials group. It will be on September 29th. It'll be a lunch meeting, and there's several people from Streetcar that's going to be part of the panel discussion. Laura Cruddy, Angie Laurie, and Linda Clark, and it'll be moderated by somebody from Comto. It'll be at the Bristol. We are selling out fast, so if you are interested in going, you can sign up through the WTS website. And then for those that aren't involved in APWA, American Public Works Association, there's a lot of exciting things coming up. The one thing I'd like to promote is the Mid-America Equipment Expo. This is the rodeo. If you guys have any crew members that are really good at operating some of the equipment, I would encourage them to sign up for the rodeo. This is a great way for them to get cheap training for equipment, for like chainsaw training. There's different training opportunities for them throughout the rodeo. And then we are going to have our APWA luncheon will be held on October 7th, and that'll be a barbecue lunch. And we would love to have everyone out there. And I believe they are going to have a director's competition. So if there's any public works directors out there that would like to go toe to toe with me on whatever piece of equipment that they'll allow us to drive, I would love to see you guys out there. And yeah, we've got some other exciting things coming up too, but I definitely wanted to get the information out about the rodeo. That is October 7th.
Allison always has great updates for us. Great programs going on. Anyone else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Chad from KCMO.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second, Mike Duffy.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody objecting? All right, we're adjourned. Please note our next meeting on September 27th, so it's an extra meeting. And be prepared for presentations. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.